Okay. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you to those of us who've been here on time. I really appreciate your your time. So I think we've got enough people to get started. Right, let's do it. So can everybody hear me? Because I'm using my headphones this time. If you could just let me know. Fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. Okay, so I am assuming that everybody that's here has had the opportunity to see the first installment of the Health is Wealth sleep sessions. So I am not, I'll spend some time recapping, but not a lot of time. Let me just share my screen. Babe, I think you're hosting. So can you make me host or enable me multiple screen sharers, please? Wife and I have signed in on the same link because we are one. But just, Zoom doesn't recognize that. Okay, fantastic. Can everybody see my screen? Please let me know. Fantastic. Okay, so let's get started. We're talking about sleep and sleep issues. This is part 2. This is the blueprint to a good night's sleep. First off, I always like to start these conversations with thank you. To you who are logging on live and to anybody who is viewing the recording. You could have been anywhere doing anything else, and I do appreciate the time that you spent for us to have this conversation. I appreciate it. This conversation is being had under the auspices of AME Finance Academy. So I want to thank Des. Ooh, somebody's got their mic unmuted, so I'll just mute that. I want to thank Des, who is the founder and international coordinator of AME Finance. I want to thank the AME Finance leadership. I want to thank my good friend Rex, who is the person who introduced me to this platform, and my team are the master builders. I want to thank them for their support. So, and everybody, you guys. So who am I? In case we haven't met before, my name is Ayo. I'm a number of things, including Christian, husband, doctor, father, brother, uncle, auntie, cousin, nephew. And I had a stroke in 2020. As a consequence of that, I became very fixated on, I became interested in starting my health journey, be more intentional about it. Because prior to having a stroke, I can't even tell you the last time I checked my blood pressure before that. And as a consequence of having to take time off and recovering from the stroke and its implications on the family finances, I became interested in my journey towards financial freedom. The reason that's why I'm in AME Finance. And I thought, well, let me use my skills to be able to help the community. So from a finance point of view, the tagline for this is health is wealth. Because what's the point of making all this money if you're not going to be around to enjoy it? So that's the premise for all these things. So let's talk about some ground rules. So again, for the sake of just clarity, I'm your brother. I want the best for you. Sometimes you have to say things that people don't like because you want the best for them. I'm just saying, just letting you know beforehand. I don't believe there's such a thing as something for nothing. Something for no, I didn't change it. Something for nothing. and progress comes at a cost, often a cost to yourself. And one's ability to change is often determining factor by one's ability to succeed. So my things that are important to me in terms of these conversations are: take stock, take responsibility, take action, wherever you are, in whatever aspect we're talking about. Um, those are the premises. And I believe that in any sort of way that you can look at your life and want to be better, it starts off with one thing. But changing one thing and walk in a particular direction helps you continue to walk in that direction, and more things can be added to the first thing that you change. But it starts with one thing. All right, so let's recap. Again, the premise of all of these conversations is that historically we had a greater understanding of the fact that we are body, soul, and spirit. And when all three are in balance, we are in a state of ease. And when we're not in balance in these things, we are in a state of dis-ease, which is where the name disease comes from, the word disease comes from. Fine, that's the premise, that's the preamble. Health is wealth, me and everything. Specifically talking about sleep and sleep issues. What did we talk about last time? So these sets of conversations were set up to help us view sleep as an asset class, rather than the thing I do at the end of the day and I don't really think anything about it. It's something that's important, something that's regenerative, something that is I need to take seriously, and any asset class we might need to invest in. I say that because of the fact that, again, I don't want it to be a throwaway, oh, you need to get better sleep. There are some specific things that one might have to do, especially if you've struggled with sleep. In terms of recap, we established this last time. It is a myth that you are the best version of yourself when you have not had the amount of good quality sleep that you need. Then that speaks for itself. And in terms of rehashing the issue, it's a big issue. 2/3 of UK adults suffer from disturbed sleep. Nearly a quarter of adults report no more than 5 hours a night. 40% of adults report improving sleep as something that they'd like to do. The average adult in the UK gets about 5 hours. Women are hit harder than men. Over half of the people who were surveyed didn't do anything about it. Obviously, that doesn't include you guys because you're here having this conversation with me. And again, the aim of this session specifically is to move you along the journey towards good quality sleep. And the thing to remember is that, one second, that there are interventions that I'm going to talk about here that you can do, but it's not as if you can do them one night for the rest of your life. You're going to have a great quality sleep. There might be some consistency and persistence required to make sure that we attain it. But just like any other goal in life, having it clearly set out in your mind will increase the likelihood of you being able to get there, especially when we see sleep as something that we're actively engaged in rather than something that we just allow. So we didn't touch on this last time. So how do we define what good quality sleep is? So again, I want to be clear about the fact that these points that I'm making to you are just an accumulation of some of the research that I've done. Good quality sleep is falling asleep within 30 minutes of getting into bed. It is typically sleeping through the night and get no more than getting up once. If you do get up, then falling back asleep within 20 minutes. And you get the recommended amount of sleep for your age. That's a loose thing, we'll talk about that later. And you feel rested, restored, energized when you wake. Now, in fact, we can talk about it now. This thing about, oh, you need 8 hours. In fact, in my research, what I figured out is that historically, there isn't necessarily a scientific basis for that. It came from factory working, and people needed a sufficient time away from being on the shop floor. So the 8 hours was the, you know, the minimum time that people from, I mean, I don't know whether it's from like a labor force or a union point of view, but that's historically where this 8 hours of sleep come from. It's not necessarily rooted in science. I'm just going to, if everybody could just mute their mics, that would be really helpful for me. Okay, so let's get into it. What are some common things that interfere with good quality sleep? Now, as I'm a doctor, so we're going to talk about some medical conditions. Now, I'm saying these things not for you to think, oh, I have poor sleep, therefore I must have one of these things. That's not what it is. What I'm saying is that it's important to remember that if these kind of things are something that you're dealing with, these things may be affecting your sleep. So chronic pain, for obvious reasons. Parkinson's, the condition itself has disruption in sleep-wake cycles and overactive thyroid. Dementia, obstructive sleep apnea. And the thing is, with sleep apnea, you might be asleep all night with your eyes closed and unconscious, but the quality of the sleep is poor, because of the apneic episodes. Chronic obstructive sleep apnea is just people who stop breathing for short periods of time overnight. As a consequence, the body's deprived of oxygen. Menopause, pregnancy, you know, my wife can attest to that. All pregnant women are supposed to attest to that. Asthma, heart failure, reflux disease. It's interesting, you know, sometimes as a doctor, people are coming to me and say, oh, you know, I'm waking up at night coughing. Asthma, heart failure, and reflux disease are my 3 most common things that I think about with regards to that sort of thing. Chronic kidney disease itself, and depression, anxiety. These are some, I mean, again, this is not an exhaustive list at all. These are just some things that are common that can cause people to lose sleep. Now, obviously, modern medicine, you come to a doctor and you say, well, I've got a problem with X. As a consequence of that, we give you medication. So these are just medications, common medications that can cause sleep disturbance or interfere with, again, good quality sleep. SSRIs, that also are specific kinds of antidepressants. Ironically, Parkinson's disease can give you poor quality sleep, and the treatment for Parkinson's disease can give you poor quality sleep. Steroids, salbutamol, so that's a treatment for asthma and you know, COPD, that makes you breathe easier. Beta blockers, anti-dementia drugs, and you know, we're talking about drugs. Caffeine's a drug. It seems an obvious thing to say, but alcohol, nicotine, and you know, one thing I didn't know, cold and cough remedies can cause you to have poor quality sleep, and some of them have caffeine in it. So it's worth having a look at. Some of these Panadols and stuff, it's not just painkillers they're giving. Sometimes they got caffeine, so it's just always worth reading the box. Now, a lot of people talk about, oh, you know, I've had a bit of an insomnia and stuff like that, and oh God, and you know, insomnia. The thing to remember is sleepiness and lethargy is not the same thing as insomnia. So we talked about this last time. Sleepiness is the sensation one has about the desire to go to sleep, and is brought on by melatonin, which is a hormone in the body, in the brain. Tiredness can often be increased with adenosine, which is a hormone, a receptor compound in the brain that is released in increasing quantities as you stay awake, and is washed out of your system when you sleep. But insomnia is the anxiety and annoyance associated with poor quality sleep. So it's that kind of vicious cycle. My sleep might be poor. As a consequence of that, I'm worried about not having good quality sleep. I get anxious about it. That makes it less likely for me to get to sleep. My sleep might be poor, and it's a terrible vicious cycle. If you've ever had an issue about it, and if you've ever struggled with insomnia, then you know what I mean. It's not nice. But it's not the only sleep disturbance, but it's a particularly troublesome one. There are two specific kinds of insomnia: sleep onset, can't get to sleep; sleep maintenance, can't stay asleep. Now, again, it's important to understand that everything I'm going to talk about today could be a 3-day teaching session with specialists. So I'm not going to have the time to go through everything in depth. It's a whistle stop tour just to give people an understanding of, what kind of issues there are out there. So again, I can relate to this. I know what it's like to lie in bed for hours looking at the ceiling, worried about the fact that I've not had a good night's sleep. I mean, you can let me know in the chat box whether it's something that you can relate with. And the importance about insomnia is that it's becoming a bigger issue. It's actually an increasing issue in kids as well, which is really worrying. So there are lots of things over the years that people have tried to do with insomnia, but there's some increasing research and development which has come up with what we call CBDTI, cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. Now, it focuses on exploring the connection between the way we think, the things we do, and how we sleep. That's CBT in general, and CBTI is specifically in relation to sleep. So again, we don't have time to go through all of CBT or CBTI, and I want to caveat that it's best done with a therapist. But essentially, the principles are to think about what you're thinking. Often, in fact, I'll do this slide first and go back to it. You will have heard the phrase, you can't stop the birds from flying around your head, but you can stop them from building a nest in your hair. And sometimes, especially when we're bombarded with thoughts, it can be easy to think, well, these thoughts must be coming, I must be thinking these thoughts, I have no control over it. And the reality is that you can take a step outside of what's going on and think, what am I thinking about? Should I be thinking about these things? Is there any proof in the things that I'm thinking about? Especially when one is spiraling, from a anxiety point of view, especially when it comes to negative self-talk and self-thinking, it is possible to, take a step back outside of the thought and analyze what you're thinking. Or if you're a Christian, you can cast that thought down in the name of Jesus. So there are some things that will help you in terms of analyzing your strategy when it comes to insomnia. Keeping a sleep log. So just like sometimes you might want to keep a food diary in the context of weight or other things, which will keep sleep log will help you correlate any particular issues with how well you slept. I had coffee today at 7 p.m, went to bed at 9, didn't sleep very well. And then you notice a passion. Actually, when I drink coffee late, it keeps me up, or something like that. Stimulus control therapy. So essentially, this is designed to strengthen the link between bed and sleep. Essentially, bed should only be for sleep, maybe some other stuff. There's so many other things that we do in our bedrooms and beds, but actually, if specifically in the context of insomnia, what you don't want to do is teach your body and your mind that your your bed is for lots of other stuff. It's not there for sleep. If you're not bed, if you're not asleep, excuse me, by 20 minutes, get out and do something boring. Obviously, get out and don't play PlayStation or whatever. But get out and do something boring that'll tire you out, and go back to bed when you feel sleepy. One of the really important things is to wake up at the same time every day. We'll talk a bit more about that as we go through, again, the tools to be able to get good quality sleep. But again, this is specifically in the context of insomnia. We talked about this. A thought or a strategy that I thought that was really helpful was designated worry time. Sometimes at the weirdest times, at the middle of the night, wherever, you start to think about, you start planning, and the author of the book that I was reading was like, actually, we can teach ourselves to be like, nope, not now. And set a more appropriate time in the day to deal with problem solving and planning. In the middle of the night is not the time to do that, especially if it's affecting your ability to get good quality sleep. So you delay worries and planning and that kind of stuff to allocate the time. So between the hours of, 2 and 4, I'm going to think about stuff, worry about stuff, and I'm not going to do it any other time. Because it's important, again, back to the birds scenario. Sometimes we get so bogged down with anxieties and worries and stuff that we forget that actually, in a lot of cases, it's a choice. And we can choose not to worry. That's CBTI. If long-standing insomnia is a problem for you, my first piece of advice is to talk to your doctor, talk to your GP. And for those of you in the UK, this website, it's an NHS website, will help you go through some questions to be able to break down, is there anything specific, like quick wins you could do, or are there anything specific that's pointing towards a diagnosis of a particular kind of problem? Most people don't have a significant biochemical or genetic predisposition to poor sleep. It's just we have poor sleep hygiene. And we're going to go and talk a bit more about that later. Now, it's obvious. So the thing when you talk about sleep and stuff, because we do it, or we've done it all our lives, most people are like, well, it's obvious what makes a good night's sleep. And when I have a poor night's sleep, well, it's obvious what the solution is. I am going to, so can you all see this GIF on the screen? What I want you to do is tell me you're with your family, you're camping, and you see this. Be honest. In the chat box, tell me what you're going to do. There's a big brown bear, doesn't appear to be happy. He's growling. What are you going to do? So, okay, so we've got run, get out of there, running for my life, scream, and then run. Okay. Now, again, that would seem like the obvious thing to do. I've got a face. But did you know that running is the worst thing you could do? When you, if you ever, I'm not going camping, but if you ever see a bear in the woods, the thing you should do is stay still, speak in a loud voice, make yourself as big as possible, and hold your ground. Because running, bears are predatory, and they have an instinctive predatory response. So they're more likely to chase you if you run. And that means the research I've looked at also says, if it attacks you, fight, because they don't expect to be fought with, and in most cases, it's a bit of a misunderstanding. So I say that to say, you see this, you think the obvious thing to do is run, but actually it would be the complete opposite of the right thing to do. And I want to use that in the context of what we're talking about in terms of sleep disturbance, because sometimes the things that we think that are obvious are not helpful. And again, these are broad strokes. Everybody's body is different. And you know, if you have a particular problem, you probably need to speak to a specific person, you know, sit down and talk about it. But this is the evidence. And I think it's also important to talk about what we talked about last time, illusory superiority. In general, we think we are better at stuff than we are. And often when you hear things that sound simple or you don't like, our reaction is, well, no, that doesn't apply to me. All I'm reminding you of is that this is my conclusion of the research with regards to sleep and good quality sleep. Now, when it comes to broad strokes, I'm not suggesting that you do all of the things I'm talking about. What I'm saying is that if you have poor sleep, or if you have a couple of nights of poor sleep, these are some things that you could try to improve the quality of your sleep. Again, if you want to hear about the benefits of sleep, then you need to listen to part 1. We're not going to cover it this time. So in some of the stuff I've read, there's a talk about war on sleep. Now, if you look at how society has evolved and moved forward, there are so many things that we are involved in and we do today that if when we look at the things that are good for sleep, what we have done is we have in an attempt to either be more efficient or do more, we have reduced our ability to do the thing that we were already doing well. So, you know, some of us are second generation or first generation from ethnic minority background in this country, and I've had conversations with some of my friends. We've talked about the fact that, you know, okay, so I was born in Nigeria, but I'm living here now, and I want to bring all the things I learned in my house to my kids and make sure that they, you know, grasp some of the concepts that I did and give them all the things that I didn't have. But sometimes in an attempt to give them all the things that I didn't have, I might not give them the things that I did have. And similarly with sleep, in an attempt to, as society moves and evolves, we have moved away from some of the stuff that we were doing that we didn't realize was good for us. And now we're paying the price for how it's affecting us in society. I have a friend, I met him in college. He is, I have so much respect for him. I always say his full name, I'll call him Mr. Watts. And I remember a conversation I had with him years ago when he was talking about buying his car, and he was saying that he was going to get a car. And he's saying that his mum was concerned that rather than use the car to do the things that he needed to do more efficiently, he would use the car to do more. And I think that's, you know, unfortunately, a lot of the stuff that we're doing these days. There's so many more things to grab our attention. We're doing more. Grind culture, and that, don't get me wrong, you know, I'm about getting it, you know. Again, this is on the auspices of I'm a finance, and I'm about improve my financial future and stuff. But it is possible to concentrate on achievement so much that it blinds you to other things, and it can make you actually sick, and definitely reduce your quality of sleep. So a lot of it is about balance. Definitely do more than you were doing. But if it's impacting our ability to regenerate ourselves, we have to start asking ourselves, again, back to definitions of good quality sleep. If grinding is stopping you do that, you need to rethink. We have a lot of stresses in our lives, stress in a way that we probably didn't have before, especially because of, if you consider the Abraham Maslow hierarchy of needs, as we're able to now we're not particularly concerned about, you know, where the next meal is coming from. We have more mental bandwidth to be concerned about other things. Again, if you think about how much light there is now compared to what there was 100, 200 years ago, these things are affecting our sleep. And I'll talk specifically about light as we move forward. Social media. I'm just going to leave it there. I think it's pretty obvious. It fits in with the stress issue. And again, I'm going to talk about it a bit more later. So what you've all been waiting for, we're now going to delve into the tips that are going to help us get a good night's sleep, good quality sleep. And like I said before, this list is not exhaustive. And it's not necessarily something that's going to apply to everybody. And I'm not suggesting that we do everything. All I'm saying is that these are some things that you can probably make notes on and say, okay, maybe I'll try this. From a medical point of view, when somebody comes to me with a problem, and there are a number of solutions, one of the things I like not to do, one of the things I don't do is change lots of stuff, because you don't know which one of the interventions is making a difference. So if you feel like some of these things are going to help you, maybe just try one for a bit, a couple of weeks, and see what happens. And then try another. So, I mean, some of the stuff we're going to talk about, like, it's obvious, you've heard it before. Some of the stuff you may not have heard before. So screen time is an obvious one. We know that the blue light suppresses melatonin, and like we talked about before, so your body needs darkness and coolness. We'll talk about that later, to get to sleep. To tell your body you want to go to sleep, you need darkness. But what darkness does is it increases the secretion of melatonin. Melatonin is one of the hormones in the body that helps you with your circadian rhythm or body clock. All right. So screen time stops your body being able to realize now it's time to sleep. So I'm just a messenger. People sleep less well when they're invested in social media. That's what the evidence shows. And they also suffer from higher rates of anxiety. And the thing to remember about social media, just as a side, I'm not saying do it or don't do it. I'm thinking just to be honest about it. It's not real. It's not real. It's not real life. And most people on social media are just showing you a highlight reel of their life. It's not their everyday. It was a big complaint about the Big Brother house at the beginning. Remember the Big Brother, the first iteration of it, for long hours? It was just boring because, you know, most of things that we watch in terms of TV or movies or whatever, we see the montage and we see the highlights and stuff. But and that's what social media is. It's somebody's highlights reel. It's the things that they're proudest of that they want you to see, but it's not real. And it's useful to be able to look at it in that context. So the suggestion is that you have screen-free time, 60 to 90 minutes before you go to bed. Those are the suggestions. That's what the evidence says. That's why I wanted to do this session at 8 o'clock rather than 9 o'clock, so that I'm not being a hypocrite and stopping you guys have a good night's sleep. Regularity. This is a really important one. Now, you know, a number of books, number of pieces of research, number of studies, going to sleep and waking up at the same time every day really helps your body, because your body likes systems, your body likes regular times, your body gets used to that. It really helps you get into a good night's sleep. Silly question, Otis. Does screen time include TV? So I thought this. It does. It does, yeah. Now, again, this is broad strokes. There are some people that it doesn't affect, you know, but the majority of people tested, it did affect. So rather than think, well, it doesn't apply to me, I would I would try avoiding it and see whether your quality of your sleep is improved. Now, again, remember, the issue isn't whether you're sleeping or not and how long you're sleeping, because it's good quality sleep. And back to the initial definition of good quality sleep, one of them is waking up rested and restored. And I have to be honest with you, even now, sometimes I feel like that's often not the case. To be honest with you, I slept poorly preparing for this because I was concerned about making sure I did a good presentation. But yeah, it does include screen time. And yes, there are things that you can do in terms of screen times, in terms of, I have an app on my phone called Twilight, which you can set to change the filter. You can do that with your TV so that the tones are redder. But again, you know, rather than see how much can I get away from, how much can I get away with, why not just try and see, well, let me just see. Sleep is like a superpower. If you get good quality sleep right, everything is easier. So back to regularity. Your body doesn't know when it's the weekend. So sorry guys, this concept of lying, it's not necessarily the best thing when it comes to having good quality sleep. In general, most people, appropriate bedtime is between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m., depending on whether you are a night owl or a morning person. And again, that's even more detail that you can go into, because again, not everybody is the same. Some people are just more awake at night, some people are not. But the point is, you want to make sure that you're doing everything at the same time every day. And again, this is not from a legalistic point of view. If you can't do it one day, it's fine. But this is what we should be aiming towards. Regularity, when the studies have been done, is actually better in the context of helping people achieve good quality sleep than sleeping pills. So that's not my phone. Don't worry about it. Now, it's important. Darkness. I want you to just think about now, in your room, when you walk into your room about to sleep, are there, night lights? Are there LED lights from TVs or alarm clocks or other things? The interesting thing is that your body needs the darkness again to produce melatonin, and it's not just what your eye perceives, which is important. That was interesting to me. So pitch black. Things that you might need to invest in are eye masks and blackout blinds. No LED lights. And again, I'm talking about, this is what the evidence says. You have to make a decision as to what is reasonable for you. Darkness triggers the release of melatonin for your pineal gland that's in your brain. And we've talked about screen. So not only does the blue light, but the actual light of the screen. So even if it's red light, it's still light. So you might want to think about just having no screen free time, those books that you've been promising yourself that you're going to read. Maybe nighttime is the time to do it. Again, the 60 to 90 minutes before bed is the recommendation. So question, so Alexa needs to go off, no standing bit. I mean, it's one of those things. I suppose it depends what you use it for in the night. But if you can perceive the light at night, then you can either go off. To be honest with you, sometimes I might put a hat over some stuff so that it's still on in case I need to interact with it, but it's not, from a light point of view, I'm not perceiving the light. That's something you can do. Or some people do tape over the LED stuff, so because most of these electric things are plugged in are not making a sound, but it's the light that's the issue. Darkness and light. So we talked about melatonin. What is interesting is that people who are exposed to light early in the morning produce more melatonin in the evening. So actually, when you get up, light on, windows open as early as possible, that will help you have a better night's sleep. And again, just to reinforce the point, light in the bedroom can suppress melatonin levels by up to 50%. And again, melatonin, just to reiterate, is the hormone that helps you feel sleepy and eases you into a good night's sleep. So not having it is an issue. Hope you follow me so far. Darkness and light. People who work in windowless offices and they don't have natural light lose on average about 46 minutes of sleep a night. Okay. You know, I mean, I don't like the taste of coffee, and to be honest with you, coffee doesn't do anything for me. I remember as a medical student, one night I really needed to stay up. I really needed to stay up. So I had a Pro Plus, went straight to bed, slept the whole night. Next night, I had 2 Pro Pluses, went to bed, slept the whole night. The next night, I had 2 Pro Pluses and a Red Bull, went to bed, slept the whole night. So, you know, I decided coffee wasn't for me. I don't really like the taste, to be honest with you. But for those of caffeinistas, I don't know what they're called, cafeinados, caffeine is a stimulant like adenosine. So talked about adenosine keeping you awake previously in the previous session. So caffeine is a stimulant. So, and different people's bodies process and excrete, yes, to get rid of caffeine in different rates. So I remember as like a teenager, we went to visit some of our my parents, uncles and aunties, and I remember the mother of the house saying she doesn't have coffee after, I think it was either 3 o'clock or 6 o'clock, because she knows after that time it won't wash out of the system and it'll keep her up. So she was aware of it. Just be aware of it, you know. And again, some people, it doesn't work. It doesn't make any difference at all. But it might be an issue for you. Avoid alcohol just before you go to sleep. So alcohol is a sedative. So the thing about sedatives is that sedatives knock you unconscious. They don't necessarily help you go to sleep. And alcohol interferes with REM sleep, which is part of your restorative processes in your deep sleep and part of your deep sleep cycle. So alcohol isn't good for a good night's sleep. CBD oil. So CBD oil is a therapeutic aspect of cannabis. So we're not talking about the hallucinogenic, addictive part, it's the therapeutic part. I mean, CBD oil they're doing lots of research on it at the moment, and the research is in its infancy, but the early reports suggest that it does help in terms of achieving good quality sleep. You can also think about using it for things like pain, and there is some suggestion it helps, you know, with mood and anxiety. So CBD oil. And again, so I have 3 or 4 things. I'm not saying do all of these things. I'm just saying these are just things that you can think about. So, I wanted to remind you that I'm a Christian. So I'm only talking about sex in the context of a marriage. But there's evidence that before bedtime, it releases endorphins and it can ease one into a lovely night's sleep. But what if you're married? Nonsense. So exercise. Moderate to vigorous exercise can reduce sleep onset times. So getting to sleep is easier if you are regularly exercising. And I want to stress that, you know, some of the things that we talk about with exercise and stuff, I know for myself, it's difficult to find the time. So I try and rather than use the word exercise, I try to incorporate it into my day. So for instance, when I'm working in the morning, I run up the stairs rather than walk up the stairs. I don't use a lift. I walk around the ward intentionally because what I'm trying to do is just keep moving, because there's lots of evidence that it's the sedentariness of life that's, you know, making us less and less healthy. Some of these questions I will get to at the end, and they'll be answered in this presentation. But yeah, monetary exercise if you want. And the other thing is that we used to think that, you know, you've got to go and spend 6 hours a week in the gym and all this kind of stuff. But you could do a 10-minute high intensity interval training, 20 minutes. You know, the reality is that you can probably find that in the day. And often the sensation that you can't find that in the day is part of what we talked about before in terms of busyness and stress and stuff like that. So there's a phrase I heard that really helped me in terms of like being able to plan your day and realizing whether you've got too much on your plate. If you're too busy to pray, you're too busy. Hug it out. What do I mean by that? Weighted blankets. Now, I think there's about 10, add 10 or 20 pounds onto you in terms of weight. The weighted blankets, the studies show increase serotonin, which is a feel-good hormone, and they reduce anxiety. So that's something one could try if you were dealing with poor quality sleep. I hope everybody's following me so far. Am I going through these too quickly? No response. I guess that's enough. So far so good, thank you. What's that smell? So lavender. I mean, there are other things you could try as well, but lavender is a specific thing that you can do because, again, you have to remember, in sleep, your body is scaling down. Shutting down is the wrong way of saying it, but it's scaling down. So everything lowers. Your heart rate lowers, your blood pressure lowers, your temperature lowers. Lavender assists with that. So lavender lowers your heart rate, it decreases your blood pressure, and it lowers skin temperature. So you could get diffusers, as long as it's not one with light, you know, that can essential oils in your room. Or you could have, you know, sprays that you can spray on your pillow. All of these things are, you know, because again, I want the aim is to be a good quality sleep. I want you to think about it. I want to be the Olympic champion of sleep. And for people who excel at something, sometimes it's the smallest thing that makes a difference between good and great. So all of these things, you know, some of these small little things might help you. Magnesium. So magnesium is what we call an electrolyte, or like a salt, if you will, that's in your body. And the good thing about magnesium is that studies show that it can help you reduce stress, and that's that word. It helps regulate blood sugar, helps you regulate blood sugar. It helps regulate blood pressure. It relaxes muscles. And okay, this is some, there we go. These are some foods where you can find magnesium. Again, if you want, this is going to be recorded, so you can always pause this and make a note of it. But dark chocolate, avocados, you know, nuts, legumes, seeds, whole grains, some fish, bananas, and leafy greens. These are just some suggestions. Again, this is not an exhaustive list. And obviously, just eating these things is not a balanced diet, but these are things that you can think about incorporating. First off, looking at them, a lot of these things would be considered, you know, healthy in quotes anyway. But now you can think about, actually, there are some other benefits that I can have from these things rather than, you know, just general good health. Fresh, clean air. So obviously having filters and stuff can help, but there are some studies that say from a mindset and a mindfulness and a happiness point of view, having plants in the house, specifically in the bedroom, assist with that. So houseplants are something you can do. And again, I did some reading, and there were 2 specific plants that were really good for filtering air. So what the houseplants do, they reduce stress, they filter the air. So as a living organism, you, human, you consume oxygen, and because of the processes that happen in your body, you excrete. Excretion physiologically is the getting rid of waste products, but I'm talking from a cellular level rather than from a organism level. So it's not what you do in the toilet. Often that's the end product of it. But your every cell produces energy, and the production of that energy has waste. That waste is excreted out of the cell. Now, some of that waste is carbon dioxide. One of the ways your body gets rid of that is by breathing out. Plants love carbon dioxide and they breathe out oxygen, so it's a fantastic trade. Which is why it's such a big deal that we're talking about rainforests, because if you can think about the Earth as one unit and the rainforests as the air filter, if we are eating into them by cutting down trees and making places to live, our ability to filter the air in this unit is reduced. That's why it's an issue. All this talk about carbon neutral and stuff, that's why. And so English ivy is a specific plant, and mother-in-law's flowers. Again, these are, I didn't come with these names. These are just things that I have researched that are good. English ivy supposedly is, one of the best plants that you get to filter air. Something you can think about. This is a really important one. So before I say anything else, as I was doing my research, it was talking about stillness and rest and stuff like that. And I was thinking, oh, we've got a message from Bishop Inatimi. Thank you so much. I can't say it, but it's Sansevieria laurentis, produces oxygen at night. So not just at photosynthesis, but specifically oxygen at night. Thank you so much, Bishop. So when we come back to stillness, I had to ask myself recently, just with life, when from the time I get up, do I just sit down and don't do anything? And in fact, I'll ask you guys, when was the last time that you just sat down? When can you remember the last time in your day that you just sat down intentionally for 10, 20, 30 minutes just to do anything? What do you think, guys? When I thought about it, I couldn't think of anything recent, not intentionally, for the sake of just, I'm just going to sit. And it was very interesting to me. What do you guys think? Has anybody done it recently? What do you think? Has it been in the last day, last week, last month? See if anybody was saying anything in the chat box. When was the last time you just sat down and be like, I'm just sitting down? For me, it was a very, yep, I don't remember doing that. For me, it was a very poignant question I asked myself. I mean, Bishop makes a good point. It can be part of your quiet time. Meditating counts. Yes, meditating does count. Meditating does count. Concentrating on your breathing and stuff, but does it include watching TV? No. No, it doesn't, unfortunately. But yeah, for me, it was a very eye-opening question I asked myself. I couldn't remember the last time I did it. So now I've started to, so for me, I wake up in the morning, I have my shower, I generally I'm out the door quite early, I'm driving to work. Even when I'm driving to work, I used to start off listening to music, and now I started listening to podcasts, or maybe some preaching, or something that I'm taking the information and I'm thinking and my brain is working, and I'm at work. I'm obviously seeing patients, and even in my lunch, I am not doing nothing. I'm either reviewing results and looking at letters, or doing research for health is wealth, or speaking to colleagues about other things. And then in the afternoon, I might go and see some more patients, or go to clinic and stuff, and then I'm driving home. And then when I'm at home, Then we have dinner and then talking to the kids or talking to my wife, or I might have a Zoom, and then I'm in bed. And there's not that time to just. And the thing that's interesting is that your brain needs it. There's a lady I follow called Caroline Leaf. She's a cognitive neuroscientist. And she's talking about actually mentally, we're not talking about that right now, but we're talking about sleep, but mentally, your brain functions better if you allow it just to daydream a couple of times a day. Just, I'm not doing anything else, I'm not doing anything, so I'm just going to sit. This concept of mindfulness and stuff, because again, back to the war on sleep, we're always trying to get it, we're always working hard, and the problem is that we forget that. Don't get me wrong, get it, I want you to get it, but we're not doing it in an efficient way. We think that we are. And again, a point that we made in part one is that surgeons who were deprived of sleep do the same procedure. They will complete it, but it takes them 14% longer. How inefficient are we being by not doing these things to, maintain? Take breaks. Actually, even from like a study point of view, people talk about, oh yeah, I've been revising for 6 hours. You've not been revising for 6 hours. Your cognitive abilities decline after about half an hour, and if you continue to persist further than that, they just continue to decline. And when you know that you're about to go to the end of it, if this is 6 hours, it'll decline, and then 3, 4, 5, 6 hours, and then it'll come up again. But there's been a significant proportion of time when you're not at your best, which is why, even from an academic point of view, they say take breaks. So that way, the dip is only like this. You never reach the deepest levels. And back to what we talked about before, rather than, oh God, I've got to take breaks. I've got to find the time to take breaks. Work it into your life. If I'm going somewhere and one place I'm walking is slightly longer than somewhere else I'm walking, if I take the longer way, it's just a time that I can be with myself with my thoughts. Take that extra minute in the toilet. Just breathe. Being mindful. Meditation. It's been proven to lower stress levels. It releases endorphins. And it's important because some people are like, oh, I don't have to meditate. If you can worry, you can meditate. Those of us who are Christians, there is a biblical way to meditate. It's about being intentional about thinking about what the promises of God say, what the Bible says. Just rehashing that. Not allowing your mind to, just focusing on that. And actually, depending on how you pray, and there's different kinds of prayer, we know that, but actually there's a kind of prayer that is stillness and listening. Yeah, good point. I tend to wake up, I've got a message in the chat box about an hour before I need to, so I can get that alone time. Yeah, it's important. It's important because if we're not careful, we'll fill our days with so much stuff. And again, the reality is that the fact that you're able to complete doesn't mean you're being efficient at it. It doesn't mean that you're being kind to your body. It doesn't mean that you're being kind to your mind. It doesn't mean that you're getting a good quality sleep. This is about good quality sleep, and sleep being an asset, being a superpower. Sleep is regenerative. It helps you remember, it helps you think, it helps you with your creativity. Stillness can help you get better quality sleep because again, there's a phrase that I read when I was doing this research is don't start planning for bedtime at bedtime. So doing all these things during the day, actually planning for bedtime starts first thing in the morning, waking up at the same time every day. taking breaks in the day, being careful about what you're eating and drinking and, you know, watching all these kinds of stuff. And then when you get to bed, it's a thing that you can do well. Temperature, this is a really important point. Now, the evidence suggests that a change in temperature from where you are to bedroom is a switch, like a sleep switch in your brain that says, okay, guys, time to go to sleep. So that's important because in general, everywhere in our house, in our offices and in our cars are the same temperature. So a change in temperature can be a switch. Okay, it's time to go to sleep. And it could be warm, it could be cold. Some people like to go to sleep cozy. Some people like to go to sleep cold. But the thing to remember is that, sorry, I've messed that out. Deep sleep is enhanced by a cold temperature. So change in temperature to get to sleep, but we want to make sure that every single part of our sleep, remember there are 3-4 parts, deep sleep is enhanced by a cold temperature. That's what it's supposed to say, best for deep sleep. Sorry about that. Something that people have tried is, you know, a cool cloth on the forehead if coldness helps you get to sleep. Obviously, keeping it on your forehead is not going to help you with deep sleep because it takes 90 minutes to get to deep sleep and it will have warmed up to body temperature by then. Modern mattresses actually work against us. So again, historically, the things that we were sleeping on, you know, grass or other such things, the heat would dissipate from us. But because of modern mattresses have foam and stuff, what's happening is that they are taking the heat from our body. Think of your body like an engine. Your body is, because it's always on, it's always producing heat, taking the heat from us and reflecting it back to us in the middle of the night, which is the time that we don't need it because we want to get deep sleep. So they're actually working against us in terms of being able to get deep sleep. Again, don't have any affiliate links, which I did, but there's a company called chillysleep.co.uk, and there's a lady who I'll introduce you to later. She's done a lot of research into sleep and has helped a lot of people achieve good quality sleep, specifically deep sleep. And there are some products that might help you with that at chillysleep.co.uk, something worth looking at. So again, with the temperature, cooling off the engine. Avoid eating and drinking within 3 hours of going to bed. The reason it's important is that you may not realize it, but again, your body is an engine. So if you are eating and drinking, your body has to do something with that food or drink. And the processing of that in terms of your, not just the chewing, once you swallow it, the digestion of that, the breaking down of the big molecules into small molecules, the absorbing it into your body, and the energy that it's producing, all of that is your body working, and that produces heat. And again, heat is something that we want to avoid because deep sleep is enhanced by cold. So you want to make sure that if you can, you've got the eating and drinking that you're doing out of the way. And again, it's not being legalistic. These are just advices from the research that I've done that are broad strokes to help you. Having to deal with that increases your metabolism and heat. This is a big one. This is a big one. A number of the books and research that I've read says, keep work out of the bedroom. You know, and because it's comfortable, or you might not have another place and stuff, and it can be difficult to, there's lots of reasons. But if the issue is good quality sleep, keep work out of the bedroom. What you want to do is to train your brain to actually go into bed. Going into my bedroom is associated with sleep. So dark side one, good point you said, but I tend to feel sleepy after a big meal. That's a good point you made. That's called the postprandial effect, prandial meaning eating. What happens is that your blood vessels are diverted the blood vessels around the stomach are dilated, so blood flows in the path of least resistance. All your blood, not all your blood, but blood is diverted to the stomach so as to absorb all the stuff. As a consequence of that, you feel sleepy. However, in the context of good quality deep sleep, just like the point I was making before, you might feel sleepy, but the quality of your sleep won't be as efficient as if you weren't eating, because your body still has to process all the things that you've eaten, and that increases heat, and heat is a thing that mitigates against good quality deep sleep. Bayon, I'm not sure what you mean. What was the word that I just explained? It's called postprandial, post after prandial eating. You know, some people might call it the itis, but essentially it's that sensation you have after a big meal that you know, just to go to sleep. However, again, the quality of that sleep won't be as efficient as proper sleep, because in general we don't sleep, we nap. But the quality of that sleep won't be as efficient as sleep that is proper sleep when you're cold, because that is what enhances deep sleep. Sorry, so I've just got a message there. I'm not sure what you mean. So your bedroom is for sleep, and for consummation of your marriage, Jerry, remember, I'm a Christian. So you want to associate your bed and bedroom for sleep. Multiple streams of, yeah, you think I'm joking? Tips for a good night's sleep. Jokes aside, did you know that lower class workers don't make sleep a priority? Do you know that quality of sleep, and we've done studies, decreases as wealth decreases? Poorer neighborhoods tend to be noisier. And can I be honest with you? When you've done the research, every single health outcome, everything, diabetes, high blood pressure, ischemic heart disease, Parkinson's, every single thing is worth in lower income communities. Every single measure. There are graphs, and what they show is people who die from this disease and wealth. So rich people are here, poor people are over here, and it just goes like this. Sorry, I mean, just like, you know, like if you want some help with some passive streams of income that will help you increase your income, let's talk, because there are some things that are involved in that I think could be a blessing to you. But jokes aside, money won't buy you happiness, and we know all that, but money buys you health. So I hope you're following me so far. We've talked about a number of things. I hope that it's been easy to follow. I want to answer the question that Darkside asked before. So if you feel sleepy outside of your regular sleeping patterns, should you go to bed or fight it until actual time? Good question. So in general, I've read conflicting things, to be honest with you. So some people say you should try a nap, and some people benefit from naps. And I think is another thing I was listening to just now before. The thing is that there are lots of factors. It could be genetic factors. It could be cultural factors. For instance, there are some countries where siestas are a thing. If you come from that culture, then siestas are likely not to affect you detrimentally as somebody who doesn't. So it's just something to think about. But when we're talking about a nap, we're talking about no more than half an hour. Because it could be regenerative. In fact, there are some studies of people. You know that people say, "Oh, I can't figure this out." Sleep on it. I think it's Thomas Edison. He's the light bulb guy, right? There are pictures of him who at his workstation sleeping. The story was that he would hold some like steel balls in his hand, and he would go to sleep. And as he fell asleep, obviously his muscles relaxed, he would drop the balls, they would wake him up. And again, anecdotally, I don't know whether it's an urban myth, he might go to sleep with a problem and wake up with a solution. So naps are something to think about, but not everybody works. Not everybody works. Everybody works in the same way. We've got a comment from my experience, though: the rich get less sleep. I suppose it depends on how they became rich. But I take your point. The evidence is people from a better socioeconomic background are better in all aspects of health outcomes. Now, so far, we've talked about lots of different things like insomnia. We've talked about things that are going to help you get good quality sleep. Now, the thing that a lot of people talk about is regularity and scheduling and just have a regimen and the concept of a sleep sanctuary. So the sleep sanctuary essentially is just everything in my lifestyle and my bedroom specifically is geared towards me having good quality sleep. So again, these are just suggestions. I'm not saying that this is something that you must do, but I want to give you an example of how you can put into practice some of the stuff that we've talked about. So again, for somebody who might say that their bedtime is 10 p.m., we're just talking about what might it look like if we implemented some of the things we've talked about. So no caffeine after 6. Have the evening meal 7 p.m., no later than 7 p.m. to give the body time to digest it and for it not to, for that breaking down not to be not an issue when we go to bed. Dim the lights in the house. Again, actually the intensity, influences like the melatonin and stuff like that. If you can, use a red light. There's one of those famous GPs who's talking about lifestyle medicine. I think his name was it Ranjan Chakrabarti? Yeah, Ranjan Chatterjee, excuse me. One of the books I read was his book, and he was like, actually, from I think it's 8 or 9 o'clock, he uses a red light in his house so as to ease his mind and his body into into falling asleep, and he reads books in that time. 9 p.m. screens off. So again, that's the latest. Some people say 60 minutes, some people say 90 minutes. Again, the bedtime is 10. So we can, make sure that the bedroom temperature is different from the living room. We can, at this age, we can be reading a book. We can be listening to a music. What you want to do is to do something that is the same every day. The lady that I was looking at her research, she works with professional athletes, and obviously they travel all around the world and different hotels and stuff. And she was like, basically, routine is one of the most important things that you can do to help you get off to a good quality sleep. And again, people who need their bodies to be optimum to be able to do what they need to do, they do this. So how much more should we? And 10 p.m. enter a pitch black bedroom if you can, pitch black, and hopefully sleep within 20-30 minutes, and ensure that the temperature in your room drops to 18 degrees C overnight. So, I mean, that's essentially what we're going to talk about. And again, like I said, this is just broad strokes. These are just a summary of some of the research that I've done. But I want, especially when we're talking about, in fact, I'll show you the first slide, and then we'll go back to take stock. So I want to show you what the definition of good quality sleep is. What was that? So let's take stock. how often can we say, this is me? This is part of what good quality sleep looks like. How often is that us? Because we're going to take stock, we're going to take responsibility, we're going to take action. So again, let's be honest with ourselves. Am I somebody who's having good quality sleep? And if not, how am I investing in my sleep? Do I need to invest in my sleep? If everything is fine, then it's fine. You know, but if it's not fine, then is there something I can do? Are there some things that, you know, I've talked about in this presentation that might be useful for you? Are my habits helping or hurting me? A thing that I hear all the time when it comes to challenging people to do something different, whether it's their financial future, whether it's their emotional health, whether it's their mental health, whether it's their physical health. You hear people say, oh, yeah, but it's just me in it. This is me. You know, I am what I am. And I just think I get it. But the reality is that every one of us has evolved in some way. There is something that you do today that you weren't doing 5 years ago. Because if the aim was not to change, you'd still be in nappies. You know, we haven't realized that change and adaptation and evolution in the context of just making changes and becoming better is just part of life. And often because of fear or being stuck in our ways or closed mindset, we forget that actually change should be leaned into. These things make me better. And sometimes we don't realize that what we're doing is making excuses for not doing the hard thing or the consistent thing. Let's take some responsibility. I am where I am. If the things that I am doing are affecting my ability to have good quality sleep, then, you know, I have to take responsibility for it. Maybe I'm not sleeping so well because I'm using my phone at night. I've definitely been guilty of that. Sometimes still am, you know. Maybe, you know, I eat last thing at night. Maybe I'm still drinking coffee or having caffeinated drinks. It's not just coffee. There's Coke. There's tea. Tea has a lot of caffeine in it. Maybe I'm just not being disciplined about my sleep time, wake time. Those are things that we can look at. Now, there are a number of things that we've talked about, but I would appreciate your engagement. You guys tell me, is there one thing, if there is one thing that we've talked about, are you going to take from this and say, actually, I'm going to do this? Is there anything that we've talked about that you'd be like, actually, this presentation has helped me think about X, Y, and Z? Is there one thing that we're going to do to change? In the chat box, just let me know. Multiple income, my guy. Might try the red light. Fair enough. Only 2 people have a suggestion. I guess the rest of you is just having fantastic sleep. Fair enough. And you're on this presentation for other people, so fair enough. Okay. Someone's going plant shopping. Reducing the number of LED lights in the room. Fair enough. Fair enough. Reduce screen time. Okay. Thank you for your answers, guys. Passive income and wake up at the same time. Good. So one thing you could do is Google or YouTube this lady, Tara Youngblood. In fact, what I'll do is you can Google these people, Caroline Leaf and Tara Youngblood. So Tara Youngblood is a lady, I saw a TED talk that she did. She lost her child and as a consequence suffered with insomnia. And she did lots of research. And she's the person behind that Chili Sleep company, and is a big proponent of the temperature control. And Caroline Leaf, again, is a cognitive neuroscientist. You can find their stuff on YouTube. They can help you with specific things to do, mindfulness and other cognitive things that you can do. The reality is that we all avoid things that we're not good at. And that sometimes involves sleep. If you think that, oh God, here we go, another night of tossing and turning or whatever, you might just put it off, or might not engage or lean into the things that you need to do it well. Everybody does that. But hopefully this presentation is giving you some tools to be able to actually, I can use these things to at least improve the efficiency, because again, it's more than the number. In reality, 6 to 7 hours of good quality sleep, good to go. The 8 hours thing, again, it's not necessarily scientifically backed. You can do it. I love that picture. I want you to remember there was a time in your life you weren't able to drive, if you can drive. Now you're a driver. There's going to be something in your life you're doing today that you weren't doing before, and you took the time to learn it, and now you can do it. Those of us who trade, there was a time in your life you weren't a trader. Now you're a trader. Now you're a trader, even if you've learned about it. And some of us are doing some passive trading. Yeah, contact me if you want to get involved in that. And there was a time in your life you weren't as healthy as you could be. It doesn't have to be your life. It doesn't have to be where you continue to stay. I messaged, can we contact you for a one-to-one? You can, but I would like to put that I am not a sleep expert. Galaxy S8, do you have my contact details? Wait for an answer. Know yourself, be kind to yourself, and be patient, like we talked about before. Often, it would be easy if if the solution to sleep was, do a marathon, and for the rest of your life, you sleep well. Human nature is that we would rather do a big thing once or twice than the small consistent thing every day. That's just human nature. Fine. Someone said, I wonder if that kid gets royalties for that pic. I've seen it in several different presentations. I think it's called Determination Kid. He's much older now, but he should probably set up an NFT, shouldn't he? Does anybody have any questions? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put, again, I'm happy to, have conversations with people and see if I can help. Put it into my schedule. 07, I'm going to put my number in the chat. So if you want to, you can take my number and please text me, because I've moved away from answering calls from numbers I don't recognize. So text me first and we can arrange a conversation. But please, I'm going to put this video on YouTube. So Galaxy S8, how did you hear about it? Because, I might be able to reach out to you and so where the YouTube's information is at. Sorry, I'm waffling. I'm going to put my socials on. Official YBCD. That's my YouTube. official. That's my Instagram. I've also got some information on my oh, my bad. Sorry, I'm sending a message to my my wife. This is, start again. I have some information on my YouTube. You can search for my name. I have a YouTube channel. And that's my Instagram, official.ybcd. And another of my Instagrams are that. So actually, I would prefer that you contact me on Instagram. Now, I'm not on Instagram regularly at all. So if it's important, please reach out to the person who you got these details and they can put me in touch with you. Not on Insta, fine. How did you find out about these messages? My email is aolatoye@gmail.com. There you go. So does anybody have any other questions before we go? I'm aware of the fact that it's 9:30. I'm sorry for taking a long time, but I felt like we needed to go through all this stuff. Any questions? Okay, no questions. I hope it's been useful. Have people find it useful? Is it something that you feel that has increased your understanding and given you some tools, or something that you can pass on to somebody else? Thank you. Well, I appreciate the feedback, guys. Like I said, my aim is to try and help us all improve lifestyle. The thing I always keep saying to people is a rising tide raises all boats. And if specifically you want to have conversations about what you can do from a passive income point of view, I can think of 3 things right now that you can get involved in that would you can start immediately, that you can start building. And if you haven't learned about compound interest or compounding, please research it, because it's the 8th wonder of the world. Regardless, thank you for watching. Thank you for logging on, and I will see you next time. If you have my contact details on Instagram and there's something specific you want me to talk about next time, one of the things I'm going to do is maybe a non-pharmacological look at things like diabetes or asthma or whatever. If there's something specific you want me to talk about, please get in touch with me. Anyway, thank you for your time. Please have a good night's sleep.
Thank you. Same to you.
See you later, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.